Tristan, now's your chance to make it
now
even
we're
better.
Streaming video. Take two.
That's live now.
Okay. Hi, video. We're here now. Sorry about that. Here we go with take two of the show. And I won't forget to introduce Roger this time, which I did last time.
That's why it dropped out.
Thanks to everyone who supports Daily Tech News Show directly. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, July 18th, 2018 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Scooter Lane.
You remembered to call yourself Scooter this time. Good. I'm very glad. Also joining us far to the north, Tristan Jutras from limestonelearning.com. How's it going?
Great. Hello from misty Vancouver, BC.
Now, you were saying it's hot up in Vancouver, and we had thunder here in LA, so like everything's all topsy-turvy.
We're in the upside down today, apparently.
Yeah, seriously. Also with us is our producer, Roger Chang. How are you, sir?
I am doing all right, considering.
Yeah, Roger's fighting a little illness. I don't know how much he wants us to talk about it, but it's not fun.
Illness.
Ugh, gross. All right. Let's start with a few tech things you should know.
Do like each other, I swear. Okay, the European Commission has fined Google 4.3 million euros for 3 cases of abusing its dominant Android market position, and we're going to talk a lot more about this subject a little later in the show.
Blizzard has changed its model for World of Warcraft, letting you get all the past versions of the game when you sign up for the $15 a month subscription. In the past, you had to buy the game and pay the monthly fee. Now, you just sign up for the monthly fee, although it does not appear to include the next expansion, Battle of Azeroth, that arrives on August 14th, and they're still selling that for $50.
Microsoft says it will announce new Xbox hardware and accessories at Gamescom, which is in Germany, on August 21st. Best guesses, at least for now, for those in the know, are a new Xbox Elite controller and possibly new specs for existing console models.
And Chinese Apple users who have not opted out, which they can do, will now have their iCloud data stored on servers from China Telecom's Chanyi cloud storage business rather than on Apple servers. And that allows data to fall under Chinese jurisdiction rather than U.S. jurisdiction, since Apple servers are largely in the U.S. otherwise. All right, let's talk a little bit more about what's going on with Venmo.
Well, it's funny that you mention opt-out, Tom, because a researcher based in Berlin, Hongdu Tiduk, analyzed more than 200 million public Venmo transactions that were made in 2017, and she was able to see the names of every user who hadn't changed their settings to private. That's not all, along with the dates of every transaction and the message sent with the payment. So this is not something that anybody who uses Venmo and understands privacy settings is going to be surprised at. However, the default for Venmo sharing is public, and a lot of people clearly are not customizing their privacy settings.
It's not the first time we've had a story about this, but in the past, they've been like Huffington Post stories about like, look at all the funny things people post on Venmo.
Right.
And this is a researcher kind of taking a more methodical approach and saying, well, let me show you like just how much is shared. And it's because they don't alert you to this. I mean, Venmo says, hey, we give everybody the choice to make it public or not, but they don't alert you that it is by default public when you sign up, which I don't think is the best practice personally. Tristan, I don't know what you think.
Well, that reminds me of the early days of Facebook, for example, when you would log in with a Facebook account in the early 2000s or the mid 2000s, and everything was public by default. And it was after years and years and finally some public outcry that they made things friends only by default. So I think if you're going to make things public by default, the onus is on you as a business to really make that crystal clear to your users, because otherwise it's a little bit of bad faith. Like have anything where it's like opting out of something that could risk your personal information, I think is not a good policy for people who want to keep customers going forward.
Well, and it's one level beyond being able to, location tracking was on in this particular app, so someone kind of knows where I am. But it's transactions that are associated with repeated locations, with repeated contacts. And so there could be things gleaned from specifically financial transactions, especially when you're giving it a subject, which you have to do in Venmo, by the way. Even if it's private between you and the person receiving the money, you have to give some sort of a reason why you're sending the money. Venmo just, they insist on it. And they also block certain keywords when you do that, which is probably part of the deal too. But yeah, I mean, if a researcher is like, I know a lot about a lot of people's personal habits and financial transactions just by watching public stuff, it should probably not be public by default.
Yeah, some of the things that Duck found in her research were like lover spats, which very obviously were not done with the idea that other people would be reading them.
Right.
And there's always been tales of drug transactions on Venmo, whether people are joking or not. One of the ones that she found, though, was definitely a person who sold marijuana, like repeatedly, and used CBD and as a regular thing, which may be legal. In California, it's now legal, so it may not be something that it's illegal, but it may not also be something you necessarily want to broadcast far and wide, or maybe you do. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of making a joke, I'm giving you money for drugs kind of thing is like, that's different than something, a researcher saying, listen, I can tell a lot about what this person is doing, and they might not want to have settings public. And certainly if you're talking one-on-one in a DM situation, if you don't know that's public, that's bad UI.
Yeah.
Now, how common is Venmo for you guys down there? Like, I don't know, honestly, anyone up in Canada that uses it, because we have some other sort of
I use it all the time.
It's somewhat generational, I've noticed. The younger the person is, the much more likely it is they want to be paid by Venmo than a check or something like that.
Interesting, because we have something here called Interact e-transfer, and basically anyone with an online bank account can easily transfer money to anyone else with an online bank account for free. All you need is their email address or...
Sounds like Zelle.
Yeah, we have a Zelle down here, which is similar. Yeah. Well, sources tell the Wall Street Journal that Samsung is planning to introduce a smartphone with a 7-inch display that can fold in half. A smaller display on the front will be visible when folded, so it can work like a phone, it can work like a small tablet. The phone could cost as much as $1,500. Samsung's also supposedly working on a Bixby-powered smart speaker, which could be part of the Samsung Galaxy Note announcement that is expected at the beginning of August.
Is a 7-inch display big enough so that you'd want to fold it? I feel like maybe it would be.
Yeah, it is.
You got a small purse, you want to make sure it's compact when you're on the go.
Think about the old Nexus tablet. There was a 7-inch Nexus tablet that was around for years, and I loved reading books on that because it was paperback sized. It's too big for your pocket.
Yeah.
It's almost shades of sort of a mini Microsoft Courier, abandoned project. And Microsoft has made intimations, you may have talked about it previously, about resurrecting that project in some form. But it just, anything with moving parts like that just it worries me, because especially in a screen, like you just open and close, open and close, open and close. Like, how's that gonna be in 6 months or a year or 2 years?
Well, but I guess it depends on the material that's around the outside too. Because like for me, I hate using cases, but I'm always cracking my phone. If I had something that was kind of sturdy so that when I'm throwing it into a bag here and there, or not paying attention, I'm not always at risk at cracking my screen. Well,
and it's going to be more expensive because you'll need a laptop quality hinge, right? Yeah. If you're going to have it go through that many permutations. Here's what's going to happen. Microsoft's going to come out with one. Samsung's going to come out with one. HTC, everybody, Huawei, they're all going to come out with them. They're all going to have problems. It's going to be the hot new trend. And then Apple will come out with one in 3 years that will claim to have fixed all the problems with the previous foldable displays. Interesting.
I'm going to take the contrarian viewpoint and say a bunch of them may come out with them, and then in a few years, the fad will die.
Yeah, that's probably, that's those. It's could be one of those two. Like, definitely a possibility.
Moving on, the Virtual Link Consortium, including AMD, NVIDIA, Oculus, Valve, and Microsoft, has announced an open industry standard for connecting VR headsets using just a single USB-C cable. Currently, most headsets connect over multiple cables like USB-A and HDMI. The standard will only apply to next-gen hardware, however.
Yeah, so if you've got an octopus hanging off your head from your HTC Vive right now, this won't fix that. But this is probably a roadblock to adoption for a lot of people, is having to deal with all those cables.
Well, if you get the whole, any extra weight on your head, after a little while, starts to feel like a giant yolk sack. Like you're a young salmon or something like that. You're just like moving your head around, and it's almost like you're kind of drunk or you have given too much blood or who knows what. So anything they can do to lighten that load. And, ultimately we want to get to a high bandwidth wireless connection. So all these things in my mind are just kind of stopgaps until they can get it truly wireless to your base unit.
Absolutely. The other thing that occurs to me is if you don't want to have it plugged in all the time, right now it is a pain to rehook up. That has been an impediment to me actually using mine, is because I unplugged it and I'm like, I can't remember where everything goes. It's going to take me forever. So this would make that easier. But like you say, wireless, that's the way.
I mean, how many inputs are in your current model, Tom? How many things do you have to?
I think
really?
5 different
Okay.
cables.
Yeah. Single USB-C. I'm glad I have all those dongles.
Yeah,
See?
totally. The Google, as they call it, released its first mini program on the WeChat platform in China. This is WeChat's kind of mini app platform within the messaging app. The app that Google is releasing is called Guess My Sketch. It's just a little game where each player teams up with an AI to battle against friends with an AI to make sketches. It's kind of a cool little game, and now it's available in WeChat. Google has slowly been trying things in the Chinese market where it does not offer Android or the Google Play Store or search. So it's making little moves into the market in other ways. And this one is very interesting because it's a competing platform to Google Play. Most recently, Google made its Files Go file management app available in independent Chinese Android app stores.
Yeah, you wonder what is this their kind of roundabout play to get back into the Chinese market by experimenting with these little things? Like, what is their ultimate end game here? Because
it seems like by being like, this is a fun game you might like within the WeChat platform. That's Google very much saying, we know where everybody's hanging out. We just want to be part of that.
And WeChat is so dominant in terms of lifestyle for people. That's the thing that largely makes the platform, like Android or iOS, kind of irrelevant. Everyone's on WeChat, people using WePay and whatnot. So I get why Google's getting in here now. Is it going to be heavily branded with their, like, as Google, just to get that name recognition for when maybe they roll out other products that the Chinese government won't have a problem with?
I feel like they're trying lots of different things and learning something, and I'm wondering what they're learning, and like you said, what that end game is. Is it to figure out a way to bring a new service into China that's not Google but run by Google, so that they can continue to say, well, we don't offer Google in China because they haven't changed their policy, when we offer this other platform? It's very interesting.
I think another possibility here, I mean, they mentioned how AI is part of this. And now if it's a sketching game and you've got, people sketching what, their versions of given images, maybe it's helping to train Google's brain, the master AI, just like we did with CAPTCHAs for years and years, typing in letters and numbers, or for the Google book scanning project, or now that we're doing with like cars and streets and buses and road signs and stuff like that to help educate the Google brain. Is this another angle to that? Learning how people draw.
Guess My Sketch is available in the Google Play Store outside of China too. So all that data might be going into one big bucket. Although data storage in China, very problematic, as we talked about with the Apple story.
2,400 individuals and 160 organizations across 90 countries signed a pledge at the Joint Conference on Artificial Intelligence, promising to, quote, neither participate in nor support the development, manufacture, trade, or use of lethal autonomous weapons, end quote. The pledge also calls on governments to pass laws against such weapons. Among the signatories, DeepMind, Elon Musk, and the X Prize Foundation.
Interesting that DeepMind, which is an Alphabet company, signs this, but Google does not. Google has their own public pledge, which is very similar to this. So I'm not sure why they wouldn't sign it unless it just wasn't an opportunity, or they feel like DeepMind signing it is enough. I don't know. But this is a massive document, and pretty much everyone involved in AI is signing on board to say we should not be developing lethal autonomous weapons. We don't want the AI to have guns, basically.
And there's a whole movement of scientists that have the website called Stop Killer Robots, and it's just, when you talk to people about like networking events or cocktail parties or wherever you hang out, and people talk about AI and drones and stuff like that, as soon as you sort of incept in their minds the whole idea of like a fleet of, say, 1 million micro drones that have been manufactured for cheap, that have just enough processing power to do something like facial recognition and have a single-use ballistic built in, and you'd release them into, say, a very populous city and say, hey, take out anyone that looks like this. And then people go, oh. So it's nice to see that corporations are following the lead of scientists and taking these kind of warnings seriously, because there could be any number of bad actors out there who are using technologies developed by mainstream companies. And, people take off-the-shelf stuff and build all sorts of crazy things. So, it's nice to see these corporations taking a stand. Now, some of it I could see also being from pressure internally. We saw with Microsoft recently, a lot of their employees being very concerned that Microsoft's technically a defense contractor. So anyone who's not signed on, including Google proper, they may be compelled to sign on due to pressure from within.
Yeah, and it is something where I feel like it is important to study it in order to be able to combat it. But I think this is well worded to say you shouldn't be working on developing it. Studying how it could be done, fine. Developing an actual product, no. That's where we draw the line, because yes, somebody can use this for ill, but you shouldn't be the one that makes that happen. And I think that's good in this particular case.
Well, it's kind of like people, labs developing bioweapons.
Yeah.
Right? All it takes is one person, one bad actor to scurry out of there with a sample, and
you need responsible research, because if you just ban it entirely, that means that only the bad guys understand how it works, and you don't want that either. Folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. All right, let's talk about the EU fine. Why did they punish Google this time? Well, it's predicated on an abuse of market dominance. It's not illegal for Google to dominate the market. It's illegal for Google to use the dominance to drive out other competitors. Android has around 70 to 75% of the EU market, and the EU Commission didn't really consider iOS to be a competitor because they say it's in its own ecosystem. They're considering only other Android phones as competitors to Android, which is a little bit weird. Google does have about 90% of the market share for search, and a lot of this has to do with their dominance in search being abused as well. So the EU found that restrictions on the use of Google's distribution of Android did deny rivals a chance to innovate and compete on the merits in breach of antitrust rules all the way back to 2011. They said, we found faults at 2011 forward. Number one was Google paying manufacturers and network operators to pre-install Google's search app exclusively. And Google actually stopped that practice in 2014 when this investigation began. It was the first thing they did to say, you know what, we won't do that anymore. So that's less of an issue. It's more about punishing them for what they did before 2014 in that case. The other two, they're still doing. Requiring manufacturers to install Google's search and browser app in order to get a license to use the Google Play Store. Remember, it's free to use Android. Anybody can use Android, but if you want to use the Google Play Store, you have to agree to install the Google search and browser app, and they prohibit manufacturers from selling any device with an alternative version of Android if they want the right to distribute Android with the Google apps. So, for instance, Amazon could not also make an Android phone with Google Play if they wanted to make the Fire phone, meaning any other manufacturer who made an Android phone with the Google Play Store on it couldn't make the Fire phone for Android or for Amazon. It limited the manufacturers that Amazon could work with. And that's true for Cyanogen. It's true for Sailfish, all of the other Android alternatives. Google has 90 days to stop these practices and pay their fine. However, Google says it will appeal the decision, so that 90-day clock is paused while they appeal. If you remember, Google was fined 2.42 billion euros last year for manipulating search results and is appealing that decision as well. And these appeals can last for a long time, for years and years. There's also an ongoing investigation into Google AdSense that has not been resolved, so that shoe is left to drop. In a blog post, Sundar Pichai said, so far, the Android business model has meant that we haven't had to charge phone makers for our technology or depend on a tightly controlled distribution model. Wink, wink. He's not outright saying it, but he's implying that we might have to charge for Android instead of giving away for free if these rules are not overturned on appeal. So let's unpack this a little bit, Tristan and Sarah, and start with, what do you think of let's not worry about the paid thing since Google stopped that already. What do you think about the EU's insistence that Google not require manufacturers to install the search or browser app and require them to not make any alternative Android phones if they want to have the Google Play Store?
Well, big issue. Sarah, you got a thought? Go ahead.
I mean, my first thought is it was sort of Tom's third point where, okay, I get why Google would say, listen, these apps, they're customized, they're quickest. This is, going to help anybody with an Android phone, be able to manage their data as great as possible. They all work well together. However, not allowing manufacturers to have Android forks, which I know a lot of folks with Android phones over the years have been like, Samsung's proprietary, whatever. Like, I hate this, but not allowing an OEM to install that's kind of the one thing I take issue with most.
Yeah, I think any time it's like a quasi-governmental body. I mean, the EU is like a super government of unelected representatives, and how technically, savvy are they? Do we want them making rules for tech companies about issues like this? I mean, there is competition in the market. iOS, I mean, sure, Google, Android has 70% in the EU, but iOS is still probably close to 30%. So that is competition in the marketplace. And if people don't want, don't want Google stuff pre-installed and don't want to, they don't want to be limited with their options, they can go and choose an Apple device. Now the thing is that there's such a variety of Android devices out there, and I think part of this is a complication of Google's whole premise. I mean, they kind of want to have it both ways. They want to make it free for the manufacturers to use, the handset manufacturers. But at the same time, it's like, well, if you want to do it this way, then you've got to follow all these rules. And I think that lack of simplicity kind of complicates things for themselves. If they just said, hey, it's free to everyone to use, go nuts, that would be simpler. Or if you said, hey, it's free for everyone to use, and here's all the rules, and if you don't follow these rules, that's it. You either allow forks or don't allow forks. And all of these things have sort of led to the fragmentation we've seen in the Android market. So, all that being said, I don't really like the idea of a regulator going in and saying, hey guys, you've got to change because of how we think you should be doing business. Because there are still, other competitors out there, and there were in the past. I mean, we had Nokia and Symbian. There may be some that emerge in the future. And, Microsoft has learned the hard way with the EU and with the Department of Justice back in the 90s. I think a company like Apple might be looking at this going, oh, well, if they're looking at, Google and not having a competitive marketplace within Android, well, what's to stop them from looking within the Apple ecosystem and saying, hey, you're not competitive there because you're not even letting anyone else make any handsets at all, or letting people install alternative app stores. So I think it might set a dangerous precedent whenever a body like that says, you know what, you're a little too dominant in that space, when it might not actually be the case.
Yeah, and because Apple only has 26% of the market, they can't be accused of abusing the dominance, right? That is their shield right now. And also the fact that it's like, this is our product. We don't let anyone else use our operating system. So there is no anti-competitive behavior there, because they can go make their own operating system if they want to. But if Apple had 90% of the market, well, maybe that argument would be different. And I feel the same way as you, Tristan, about the second rule we talked about. If Google wants to say, if you want our apps, you have to take these. Like, we're not going to give them out piecemeal, is essentially what they're doing by tying stuff to the Google Play Store. If you want to get the Google Play Store, you have to agree not to use other Play Stores because that's confusing. That's the one where I feel like the EU can make an argument, but I think it should be allowed to say, like, if you want our apps, you have to have them as a bundle, the Google Play Store, the search, and the browser. The EU itself has proven that browser choice generally doesn't have an effect. That browser choice window on Windows really didn't change the marketplace. On the other hand, Google prohibiting a manufacturer from making another kind of phone because they're making a Google kind of phone, I think that one clearly strays into anti-competitive behavior. If you can't say to somebody, well, if you want our operating system, you can't make other things not risk antitrust. That is the definition of antitrust.
Yeah, exactly. That's a bit of a bridge too far there, and we've seen that in other industries too. When even when it comes to selling certain products, well, you can't sell this if you also sell a competitor's product, and that gets a bit much, especially if it's coming from a place dominance there. So I think, Google's obviously going to fight this, and remains to be seen how it all comes out in the wash. But I think part of these issues has stemmed from the fact that Google broke up Android into its smaller constituent parts to help combat the fragmentation that was happening, because we've seen so many older phones are not getting the full system software updates, either due to carrier restrictions or obstacles or what have you. So Google started breaking apart, into Google Play services and all of that kind of stuff, which again makes all these licensing considerations even more complicated. And of course, Apple doesn't have that problem because they own the whole widget. But I think they might still be concerned if you've got, despite their relatively small market share compared to Android, that if you've got regulators that don't maybe get all the nuances of the tech side, they may decide to focus their sights on a company like Apple now, which is dominant within its own realm, and they might, So I think everyone's watching this very closely.
It's odd to think that if Android were not free, if Google said you can only get Android from us, it's our version of Linux, and we can do it like Red Hat, only us, and whoever we want gets it because they pay us or whatever, they would have fewer problems. It's the fact that they give it out for free and pretend that it's an open platform, but then essentially lock it down by saying, but you can't use our Google stuff, is what the EU is identifying. They're saying Google stuff has become essential because of market dominance, and so withholding it essentially kills the competition. And
then there's Oracle and Sun going, yeah, and that was kind of part of our code that you used as well, but we'll not go there.
Yeah, right. That's another lawsuit. Yeah.
Well, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com is where you can submit stories and vote on other stories that your peers submit. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow.
All right. We get the feedback from the people and we love it. What's in the mailbag, Sarah?
Justin, the pilot.
It's just another pilot.
Just another pilot, pardon me. Actually, great email. I've parsed it down just a little bit, Justin, but you're the best. Weighs in on our manned drones discussion. We had that late last week. The idea of people, if you're piloting a drone, are you a pilot? What are the legality issues here? It says full licensing is a good thing. Pilots of all variety should work hard for that goal. I would assume that the FAA would eventually come up with a small program for these manned drones. But it says a lot to me that the FAA hasn't done anything yet to keep these things in the air with people. Then he had a variety of kind of jokey ideas, and we just went with one. One is the FAA will shut this down tomorrow, not by licensing, but by still making passengers go through TSA screening before jumping on a drone.
Yeah, imagine if you have to, get there an hour ahead in order to jump on your single autonomous drone.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
But it's good to get a pilot weighing in on this and the importance of the FAA rules, and said it seemed like everything we said on the show was about right. So thank you for that as well.
And good to have Tristan Jutras weighing in on this show. Tristan, been so nice to have you. Let folks know where they can keep up with your work.
You can find me at www.tristanjutra.com. Check the show notes for the spelling, or limestonelearning.com for my day job.
And we have been saying your name wrong, and you very politely have not corrected us. It's Jutra. I apologize.
Jutra. That's quite all right. Or you can go Jutra if you want to go full French.
I mean, in fairness, you're probably used to it, but
I could claim my mispronunciation was a way to make sure people knew there was an S at the end when they go look it up.
That's exactly right.
Not what was happening at all, but
I'm a big fan of Sarah Lene as well.
Yes. Ooh, that's a good one. Scooter Lene. It
Thomas
just keeps getting better.
Hey, thank you for directly supporting the show. There's a good number of you who want to support us on Patreon directly. Skip the middleman. You can do that, and you get access to Discord and exclusive columns and all kinds of cool stuff at patreon.com/DTNS.
Hey, our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We'd love to have you join us live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. That's 20:30 UTC. And you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Back tomorrow with Justin Robert Young. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Good show, Tristan.
That was great.
Yeah.
I have questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
what?
I have questions, two at least. one. Forgive me because I'm still ridiculously behind on my podcast and whatnot. Scooter? Is that because you're riding the scooters? Is that are being littered everywhere?
It's actually, sort of hilariously not related to electric scooters.
You a big Scooter Libby fan?
No. It was
Scooter
just
Gennett? No.
we were thinking about just sort of names and nicknames that come out of names, and I decided I'd like my nickname to be Scooter, even if it doesn't catch on. Just those in the know that I will answer to Scooter.
That's fantastic.
I don't remember how it came up either. I'm sure we could go back and listen, but once it came up, it was like, that's it. I'm Scooter.
Yeah. You've rebranded, Sarah. That's amazing.
I know.
I think we were trying to come up with I think we were talking about names and how many it started off where Tom was suggesting there's going to be a point where we're going to need a legislative or an organizational body to approve names because there'll be so many people in the world and be so many similar names that we need a unique name.
At one point, will unique names be enforced? That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, and then it was a discussion about do middle names not do enough? And then it was people change surnames, but they change their given first names much less often. And then it became Scooter.
This sounds like a job for the blockchain. Everyone can have their ridiculously long alphanumeric.
No, absolutely.
Finally, yes.
Public ledger where your name is
right.
Recorded.
Yeah.
Other question. Frog pants. What?
Don't they have frog pants in Canada?
Frogs out here. Our frogs are in Quebec mostly. That's where my father's side. That's my father's side of the family. But they do wear pants, but it's a different kind of frog.
Are you asking why it's called that, or what it is, or both?
Both.
Okay. What it is Scott Johnson, who's on the show regularly, it has a podcast association or federation, I guess. It's basically all of us who know each other, all promote each other's shows. And so he creates little bumpers for all of us and everything, but it's not network would be maybe too strong of a word. But we're all sort of part of the club. Mm-hmm. He would have to explain why it's called Frog Pants. He's explained it to me and I can't recall. So yeah.
I think it was something he used kind of draw in high school.
Yeah, because Frog Pants Studios was his art, was originally the name of his art projects, and then he applied it to podcasting.
Oh, gotcha there. So you're not all one company, but you're a loose association, kind of like a 90s web ring.
Yes.
Click here for the next website.
We're the modern day version for podcasting of a web ring.
A pod ring.
Yes, a pod ring, exactly.
Is that a Darth Vader sock over your mic? Is that what's happening there?
Yes.
Is that related to your illness?
It's a pretty good windscreen.
Since
I'm indoors.
Has that always been there? I never even noticed that.
I've never seen it.
It's been there for a couple weeks now. Yeah.
3 months, 2.5 months.
Huh. How about that?
And
oh yeah, go ahead.
How's your illness? I saw a picture of your hands the other day. What's
yeah, that's I, for the people who can see on the stream, basically got infected by my little girl who brought home hand, foot, mouth
right
disease. But that was 2 weeks ago, and I was feeling fine Sunday. And Sunday evening, I started getting like a fever and the chills, even though it was like 81 degrees Fahrenheit in the house. Like it was like 82 at one point. It was very uncomfortably warm for my face, but the rest of my body was still shivering. The shakes and the fever went away, but I got the blisters on the palms of my hand and the soles of my feet. So
do they itch? Do they hurt?
Oh, they hurt. It hurts like a really bad acne pimple kind of,
or like a blister. Awful.
Oh, yeah, it's terrible.
Well, at least you said it seemed like the worst had.
Yeah,
already...
I think I'm on the last half of the worst. Hopefully, I don't want to jinx it.
Also, any beef derived from Roger is banned from import or export.
Although, if I overcome this illness, I should be okay the next time it comes around.
It's a one and done type thing.
It's a viral infection, so you can't take antibiotics, and there's no known vaccine for it. But it's considered to be a minor illness. I mean, it's uncomfortable, but it's not like rare cases, it might lead to encephalitis.
Oh yeah,
which is
don't want that.
swelling of your brain, but
Yeah, it's very bad.
So you're not going to have a hand, foot, and mouth party to get all your friends and family infected just to get it out of the way? Like,
well, I was
party?
wondering that
Like
because
make a superhuman team.
like my wife got it, but she got it just on her feet, and that was it. Like I have a sore throat, and the back sides of my tongue are kind of sore. Like if you ate something that was too hot and you burned yourself on the tongue. Yeah, it's very unfun for me. And for some reason, my daughter's symptoms were a lot milder than mine. So I basically got the short end of the stick, which I'm fine, happy to do. You know, having my daughter go around crying because she couldn't eat anything because it was painful. It's bad enough. But if she had painful feet and hands, that would have been
Taking one for the family.
Yeah.
Well, and they
You're a good
say you're
dad.
not supposed to do any physical contact, but like my kid's crying. What am I supposed to do? Pick her
Yeah.
up and you
Right.
soothe her. So yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It's life as a parent, I guess.
Well, you know how I was asking yesterday, is this like similar to the chicken pox virus? And you said, no, it's totally different. However, isn't there a vaccine for chicken pox now?
Is there? I always thought you were
I
just
thought the
supposed
kids
to.
were getting that
There
these
is.
days. Yeah.
I thought they just had chicken pox parties because that's kind of what
That's
the
the
thing
old
was.
Well, not parties, but I mean the idea of getting a vaccine for something that's a virus.
They used to do chickenpox parties. That used to be the way. to
Oh, it
vac-
really was a
Yeah.
thing. I have never been to a
But
chicken
there
pox
is
party.
now a chickenpox vaccine, so you
Ah.
don't have to do the chickenpox party.
I've had one, yeah, because there's a shingles vaccine as well, and they're related.
Yeah.
Like if
makes
you
sense.
didn't get chicken pox as a child, it means that if you get shingles, it would be a lot more serious.
Yeah, I think so.
As an adult.
I have the answer. I'm sorry to interrupt our lovely discussion of diseases. But I
Viral
do-
infections, Tom.
Yeah, viral infections. But Hate to Orate sent us a link to the Frog Pants Wiki, where it explains that Scott and Kim Johnson at one point envisioned creating a bookstore for children called
Aw.
Frog Pants Books, whose mascot would be a magic frog with a funny hat. Scott registered the domain name in case they ever made the idea come to life. And later, when he's trying to decide a name for his studio, he looked at the domain names he had, saw Frog Pants, and decided to pick that one.
Wow.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
Oh. So it's not frog hat, it's frog pants.
Right.
I mean, a
Pants.
frog wearing pants is pretty cute.
Yeah.
Although pants and a hat would be even
Well,
cuter.
it's just decent, is what it is. I mean,
All right.
Hat wearing frog pants.
So back to infections. I have a little story to share with you.
of course. Sorry. Back to your regularly scheduled.
Oh,
infection.
real quick. Title: Mo money, mo billions and fines.
I actually picked Your Free Isn't Really Free, which is kind of along the same lines.
Cool. Done.
That work? All right, cool. Carry on.
When I was in California, you're in your neck of the woods somewhere, I can't remember exactly where, in the I think late 70s, early 80s. I went down a couple of years in a row with my god brother. I guess it's my parents' godson and his parents, and they had an RV, a sweet RV. And we would go down. I think we would go eventually as far as like Santa Cruz, maybe even San Diego. But somewhere along the way, I remember we stayed somewhere at campground, and both me and my godbrother, he and I both got poison oak.
Mhm.
And that was something that we do not have. But it's one of my fond
Oh no, your
Memory-
connection just started being weird.
Yeah, it is for me too.
Again.
Ooh.
Hello.
Okay. That.
What went
yeah.
weird?
Yeah. Your connection kind of
said-
broke up there
You
for a
said
moment.
poison oak, and suddenly
It
the
was
ISP
my
decided-
godbrother and I got poison oak, and then we lost the rest of it.
Well, it was, let's just say it was not a lot of fun. Hands, face, and other places that you end up touching once in a while.
Yeah. I grew up around poison oak and I've never gotten it, which led me to believe that I was immune because I would like play in it sometimes, not on purpose, but I never have had poison oak. And there's quite a lot of it in Northern California, but I have seen how bad it can be. And boy, can it be bad.
Public service announcement. Zanfel, Zanfel. It's expensive. It's like $32 for 3 ounces. It will take off the oil. It's the only thing that doesn't just salve the itch, but actually removes the oil from your skin. And it will not heal your poison oak or poison ivy infections right away, but it will speed them up tremendously.
Is this over the counter or something?
It is over the counter. Yeah, it's just real expensive.
So you're not just supposed to pee on the affected areas, is what you're saying.
I don't know if that works. It's not like a jellyfish. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not all jellyfish.
Hashtag.
Apparently that's a myth too.
Yeah.
Some of the jellyfish are
Or
like,
it is
hey,
like a
man.
jellyfish, because it also doesn't work. Yeah, I don't know.
I just like peeing on people. Well,
I thought you're LA, not San Francisco.
Yeah.
well, I was in San Francisco. then I moved
Context.
Yeah.
down. Man, I don't know. Just illnesses in general kind of suck.
Yeah, they do.
Any plans for the summer? Any of you guys? Aside from this?
Well, my wife is expecting, so I'll be doing a lot of house cleaning.
Making a lot of casseroles. Yeah, Roger has the most exciting, at least, wrapping up the summer event of any of us for sure.
The sequel. You like the first one?
Yeah.
You can
I mean,
spend more money on the second.
your first child is pretty darn cute. So
Hopefully,
Ellie,
that's what keeps her around.
right.
Like honestly, I believe if you came out with a pretty ugly kid, you're like, like you'd
be more annoyed all the time.
You give me diseases. You constantly clamor for food and affection. Like it's like
You're so needy.
So
little
needy.
Adorable child.
But if well, it's because this is the thing about parenthood. A lot of this stuff really just kind of makes you wonder if you should have had kids. Then they do the one thing that's so adorable, so cute, you literally forget about all of that. It's like, oh, fine. I love you.
Are you talking to your daughter about the baby yet?
Yeah, I've been saying that she should prepare because I'll have high expectations from both of them, and that I will basically be doing a.
Oh, good.
I mean,
you're your father's child.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a little bit of gentle, comparison and competition between the two that I will encourage in a very, perhaps in a very kind of disciplinarian fashion. Like, who can tell me, the square root of 7? First one gets a popsicle
yes.
or something.
Yeah, the 3-year-old and the newborn.
So
go.
only one of them makes it out of adolescence? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, they'll all make it out of adolescence.
Okay.
It's whether or not they make it out of adolescence with, like, oh, okay, I'll pay for your college.
There's like a bonus at the end.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, how about just
Yes,
getting them
you
to
can.
sort your email for you or something like that? Like put them to practical
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, nah, I basically have a thing where I flag if it's someone I don't know, it automatically just goes into spam now. So I don't get I get a lot. Half of my email is junk email. It's either Portuguese, French, Russian, or Australian real estate agents, and they all just go into the circular file.
Still get the sexy Russian brides once in a while.
No, I get the unsexy Match.com matches from Kentucky because some guy used my email address for his Match.com profile, and I get all these are your matches we picked this week. It's like, dude, I'm old, but I'm not 50, 60 years old.
You should set up meetups for him.
I don't know. It's like when you have still young at heart, 56. I mean, that's sweet.
56 is young at heart. Come on. It's not even that far away.
I want to keep that time as far away from me as possible.
It's a good time to explore animal
At
prints.
least that fight. But
Animal prints. A lot of them have a similar profile. I enjoy the outdoors, movies.
What is it about animal print that causes people to want to wear it and or be attracted to people wearing it?
But
wait a
what's considered
second.
animal print?
Hold everything. And animal print here and there can be good.
That's what I'm asking. What makes that
On
good?
tights?
It's just a texture. I mean, it's
Yeah,
a
but-
print like any other print.
Well, so wait, what's an animal print? Is it like houndstooth or is it an actual
No,
animal?
like a leopard print.
Yeah.
Oh,
Or
okay.
well,
tiger stripes?
Mostly leopard print.
It's mostly leopard print. It
Maybe
gets
people
associated with like
Cougars.
an
Ted
older
Bundy.
divorcee, type of a thing.
Children.
I happen to have a leopard print dress in my closet right now, and it's
No
really
judgment.
cute.
That's tomorrow on
judgment.
DTNS.
But we do call it my cougar dress.
Do you ever go out the door saying, "Look out, Scooter
Meow.
Lane's on the prowl"?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to now.
We're going to wrap up our video podcast, but if you want to find out more about what's in Sarah's closet, stick around on the audio. There's more to come.
Oh, and before we say goodbye to video, if everyone wants to check out my new podcast, go to havesuchagoodday.com. Lots of more information there.
If you like Good Day Internet, you want to have such a good day.
Yeah.
On top of it, it's going to multiply the fun in your life. Go there right now. HaveSuchAGoodDay.com.
Estrogen galore.
Mm-hmm.